See, fish this big. I'm telling you what, I wouldn't lie to you. I wouldn't lie to you, I promise you. So anyway, bottom line, what ends up happening is George Clooney comes over. George Clooney. No.
Heineken decided to take a twist on drinking and driving commercials. After watching this commercial, you feel guilty. They use the dog as the driver, but it could just as easily be you in the driver's seat. With the dog drinking, he is putting his owner in danger by not being a reliable guide like he is trained to do. Heineken touches upon the peripheral route a little by making it a dark and gloomy day, which should trigger your emotions to be sad. The 3 cues for guilt appeal is empathy, reason, and action. They hit the empathy with using a dog as the drunk driver. People tend to have more emotions when it comes to animals. The response to this commercial is that you don't want to drink and drive because it puts not only you but everyone around you at risk. The action is that you don't drink and drive yourself or allow others to do it and to take their keys when they want to drink.
Operator 901, where's the emergency?
127 Brynmere.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushroom.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency
Do you
line.
know how long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Okay, is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
This commercial uses guilt appeals to arouse empathy amongst viewers to persuade them to perform a specific action. This action in this case is to listen. As the camera pans over the rooms of the house, the viewer can see how every room is messy and tossed around. As that is being shown on the screen, the woman's voice becomes more worrisome. Once the viewer has caught on that she needs help and not an actual pizza, the situation becomes alarming and the viewer begins to feel empathy for her. The commercial emphasizes responsibility by showing the 911 operator at first not taking the call seriously, but then catches on to the real situation. If the operator hung up after thinking the call was initially a joke, the woman could have been harmed by her abuser. The commercial then turns the responsibility over to the viewer by ending the commercial with, "When it's hard to talk, it's up to us to listen." This implies that the responsibility is also up to the bystander to truly pay attention to what is happening around us, rather than waiting to hear a call for help when it's already too late. Lastly, the commercial ends with how the viewer can take action by visiting a website to learn more about domestic violence.
What are we looking at? Formaldehyde, acrolein, nitrobenzene. This actually has over 7,000 chemicals. Don't get me started on what they do to you. Prematurely wrinkled skin, stunted lung growth.
Mr. Essler.
Tooth loss, cancer.
Mr. Essler.
Hang on.
If cigarettes looked as dangerous as they are, you'd run like hell. Find out the real cost of tobacco.
This commercial uses fear appeals to persuade the audience. It exploits the illusion of invulnerability by showing that smoking will attack you and harm you. It demonstrates how people wouldn't think they could be affected by smoking, especially because a cigarette looks harmless, when in reality it has the ability to destroy you. The destroying factor is depicted through an ugly monster chasing after kids in a classroom. This also applies to the elaboration likelihood model. The ugly monster is a peripheral cue in that if viewers see a disgusting creature, then they will associate the monster with a disgusting cigarette.
This commercial uses fear appeals to persuade the audience. It shows you an aspect of death that you wouldn't expect to see in a commercial by having their spirits come out of their body when they die. Using the ELM model, this commercial shows peripheral cues to get the viewer to understand what is happening. Using the peripheral cues of young teenagers dying because not doing a simple task of putting on their seatbelt shatters the illusion of how short life can be if you don't take the steps to be responsible. Fear appeals uses illusion of invulnerability, reliance of stereotypes, and attachment to youth in order to persuade the viewer. Illusion of invulnerability is used for people who think that seatbelts don't do anything. A lot of times people don't wear them because they don't think that they would do anything for them, when actually the only person who lived was the one who was wearing one. Reliance on stereotypes and attachment to youth are both used to show how teenagers think they are invincible. Teenagers have a stigma that they are bad drivers and don't follow the rules of the road. They use teenagers in this commercial instead of adults to show this. But in reality, anyone can die when they get into an accident by not wearing their seatbelt.
She's got a smile that it seems to me reminds me of childhood memories where everything was as fresh as the bright blue sky. Now and then when I see her face, she takes me away to that special place. And if I stared too long, I'd probably break down and cry. Oh, sweet child of
mine. Since 2000, speeding has killed a classroom of our children. Shame on you. You can never control the consequences if you speed.
This commercial uses fear and danger control to arouse immediate emotion from the viewer. When using fear and danger control, there are 4 elements that need to be met for the commercial to be effective. The severity of information is the magnitude of the threat, which is the dangers of speeding. What the commercial is depicting is that speeding causes many unnecessary deaths. If the man behind the wheel would have acted more responsible, those kids wouldn't have died. Susceptibility information is the likelihood of the threat. In this case, it is likelihood that at any time people who are speeding could injure themselves or others. The response advocacy in this commercial is when the narrator says, "Shame on you." The narrator is telling the viewer that it is a very simple task to choose to act responsibly, especially every time you get behind the wheel. Lastly, the self-advocacy is how the viewer can take action themselves. If you don't speed, you won't take the chances of unnecessarily injuring yourself or others. And by doing that, you can create safer roads for everyone.